So one thing I've realized that just seems to bother a lot of players in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the existence, or at least the proliferation, of Omni-Negates. Whether or not they're healthy for the game is one thing, but when do we have too many of them? Is a deck degenerate if it can put up multiple Omni-Negates, and conversely, is a deck fair if it can't even make a single one? Well, to quickly answer this question, it all depends on how good the decks are overall. Because, for example, Raziel doesn't make any Omni-Negates, but they still manage to be the top performing deck in the OCG. And on the flip side, decks like Synchron can put up like multiple Omni-Negates, but nobody really cares. Obviously, if nobody plays the decks that can make all the Omnis, then by definition default, they're kind of fine. The issue is, if Omni-Negates can easily be accessed, then they always see play before any kind of other interruption out there. For example, if you had the choice between summoning a Baron or a Cheng Ying, 9 times out of 10 you would pick the Baron. Same with Warlord Savage Dragon and Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. The comparison here isn't to say that Cheng Ying and Crystal Wing are not worth playing, since they're both extremely powerful, and there are some of the best level 10 and 8 synchros respectively. I said that rather just to prove the point that despite the fact that these cards are great, an Omni-Negate just covers more ground and therefore is the preferred solution. The reason why Omni-Negates are a problem for Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that they usually cause cards to become obsolete. Okay, let that sink in. There are over 50 level 10 synchro monsters in the game right now, and if Baron were to get unbanned like tomorrow, nobody would care about 99% of them. Now, even though Appaloosa is not an Omni-Negate, the card was still the best Link 4 monster out there, at least more often than not, so it was still the best option usually. Whether it was used as an anti-Nibiru card or as a way to make more interruptions, you can't really deny its impact on Yu-Gi-Oh! And by the way, there is a really good reason why I just talked about Baron, Warlord, and Appo. They all share 2 things in common. The first one is that they were all the best options in their respective brackets, and the second is that they're all banned. I wonder why. And looking at the new Link 5 monster that Konami is coming up in Alliance Insight, I think that this pattern might just continue. So Akko, Talker, Adignister has 2 effects, and both of them are completely absurd, although only one of them is something I can really consider to be problematic. The first one is only truly powerful in Cyrus decks, as on summon, it can revive back up to 3 Cyrus monsters from your graveyard with 2300 attack. So obviously this is a reference to Dark Templar's effect, which makes a lot of sense, but this time you can summon more than just Adignister monsters. There are a few solid Cyrus monsters with 2300 attack, but the best ones I could think of would be like Access Kotalker, Dekotalker Heat Soul, and then we've got Trans Kotalker obviously, and the 2 Malice Link monsters. Now, you won't be able to summon any more monsters after you use that effect, which I think is fair, but still, that is still a really good effect. The second effect, however, is where it gets out of hand. So when your opponent activates a card effect, you contribute a Link monster this card points to, and then negate the activation or the effect, and then banish that card. What is this? Oh, and keep in mind that this card revives back tons of monsters that could easily be used as tribute fuel, and also gains attack in the process. Oh, and obviously, just in case it wasn't already super obvious, Aquatalker Adignister is a generic Link 5 monster that can be summoned with any 3 effect monsters. Most people would see this as an Adignister monster, and I just see it as a more realistic and achievable Tri-Gate Wizard, aka an Omni-Negate Link monster that everyone can easily bring out and benefit from. As a matter of fact, my first reflex when I first saw this card was to see if I could actually add this to the 1-card Snake Eye Ash combo. And yes, I can confirm Snake Eye Ash can turn into the nastiest end board imaginable, and this card is indeed a part of it. So you can make 4 Omni-Negates if we conclude this with Fiendsmith DS E-Ray, the Azamina Ilia Sylvia, and the Scourge of the White Forest. Not to mention, of course, all the other interruptions, so for example, IP into SP, the Princess, whatever you summon off of the Diabelle, etc. Again, off of like literally just Snake Eye Ash or Witch or Sylvie even. So this gives you so much wiggle room that even if Konami were to ban like 1 or even 2 of these Omni-Negates, you wouldn't really care because you would have a backup plan already. And honestly, I think it is kind of a big deal because I can't really think of anything better to do with your leftover bodies on the field. Like, I remember when Link monsters were first announced in Yu-Gi-Oh! They weren't really broken because even if you have a bunch of bodies, you can't really do much of anything with them. Like, okay, you can summon 2 Mrs. Radiant, big deal, bro. But eventually we started getting cards like Boreal Sword Dragon so that even your garbage random bodies could actually just OTK the opponent. And now I just feel like just having a lot of bodies on the field really matters, even though it kind of just showed into because you can't really synchro or Xyz with them. And speaking of leftover bodies on the field, God knows how often I have seen people end their turn 1 board with something garbage like Raging Phoenix and Zelantis. Imagine, they have so much money that they just randomly have a Link 4 monster that kind of just does nothing on turn 1. But yo, imagine if that actually translated to an Omni-Negate. Kind of scary now, huh? Not to mention that tributing a Link isn't necessarily a neg, even when you're low on resources, because you're summoning back the princess on your opponent's turn and then you're just tributing that off. And that also disables the Firelock, which means that you can summon your other things such as whatever IP or Bestios or Nibiru or whatever. Honestly, I think that this card should have been restricted to Cyrus only, or even worse, require at least one Administrate monster to be made. I do genuinely believe that printing this card out to be generic is wrong, since it'll now devalue a lot of other options. And also, it does make the Abaoshu feel a little weak in comparison. Why would I discard a card to destroy a card on the field when I can just negate and banish? Okay, yeah, sure, it's a Link 4 and Akkord is a Link 5, but look, if you got 4 Link materials worth of bodies on the field, what is one more really gonna change to your life, right? Like I said, it's the more realistic and achievable version of Tri-Gate Wizard, because that card was only really good in like extra Link decks. However, I do remember a Melodious Snake Eye deck being able to actually summon a Tri-Gate Wizard cooling to 3 monsters. And now you can pretty much do the same thing generically without being so convoluted. Again, Link 5 monster, 3 effect monsters, and it can negate anything. That's pretty much like the better Terahertz. And in something like Malice, being able to revive back your Malice Link monsters, your Transcode, your Heat Soul, whatever, that's just kind of freaking nasty. Anyways, that's all I had for this video right here. You guys let me know how you feel about Aqua Talker adding Mister in the comment section below. Do you think that Konami made a huge mistake printing that card? Do you think that Omni Negate should be more restricted? Or do you think it's fine if we have super generic and easy to make Omni Negate monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.